Welcome to What's My Tagline, a show where we put the microphone in front of the people who are typically behind the scenes, those responsible for marketing, sales, social media, PR, and event management. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of What's My Tagline. I'm your host, Carol Flagg. Thanks for tuning in. My guest today is a good friend of mine who I've known for many years. Dave Anderson is the founder of the award-winning healthcare communications and marketing agency, Anderson Interactive. Dave and his team recently launched ownedreputation.com, a do-it-yourself site for physicians to take ownership of their medical practice's reputation. And he's here today to talk about that endeavor. Dave, welcome back to the show. It has been years since you've been on.
Yes. Thanks, Carol. Yes, I actually took a look back, and I thought it was just a handful of years ago, but it was 2017. So yeah, it's been
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit since we
You were
talked.
you were my very first guest.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. It's like all those years they didn't even happen, or everything old is new again, or whatever cliche we want to apply, right?
Well, it's been great. It's been great listening in, over the years and kind of catching up on some of the other folks that I've kind of met over the course of the career, and hear some of the other interviews that you've done of people that I'm familiar with and knew for years as well. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, even though years have gone by, the first question has yet to change. As you know, my first question of all my guests is if you had to describe yourself as a tagline, what would it be?
Hmm. Well, the last one that we did, I think my tagline was articulate the positive. I
Oh,
was
from
focused on
from
public relations.
from
So
2017.
that's right. But I suppose I could upgrade that now. I mean, I think right now we are right now with this new endeavor. It's really all about do it yourself. And so right now, my tagline is God helps those that help themselves. I think we're really, it's something that kind of reminds me of a story that goes back to, do you remember the story about the drowning man? I think it's kind of a parable or a joke. Anyways, it's a story about a flood that's coming through a town, and the man is trapped in his house, and a
Oh,
canoe comes up to him,
yeah.
and the man of the canoe says, "Hey, let me help you get you out of town before the flood gets too bad." And he said, "No, the Lord will protect me." And then a little while later, a speedboat comes by and says, "Let me get you out of this house." And the man says, "No, the Lord will protect me." And then finally, he's on his roof, and a helicopter comes by and drops a ladder and says, "Let me get you out of here." And he says, "No, the Lord will protect me." Well, of course, that man drowns, and when he goes to heaven, he asks God, "Why didn't you save me?" And he said, "Well, I sent you two boats and a helicopter. What more do you want me to do?"
I ran out
So
of transport.
exactly. So I think it's a situation right now where everybody wants to do things as cost effectively and highest quality as possible, and a lot of times it's just doing it yourself is the best way to go. So
Yeah. And that'll be a great segue into your new endeavor. And I think too, and I know we're going to talk about this. I think too, for from that perspective of you know what's available today in tools, generative AI and whatever, it's never kind of been easier, I think, to take control and do some of the things that you maybe could do on your own
hmm
with less effort than it would have taken perhaps back in 2017 when we last chatted. So,
definitely.
but before we talk about this not so mysterious new endeavor, because the website has been launched, uh, just give us a little bit of peek into your career journey. I think I know your story pretty well, but there might be things that I know will be of interest to our listeners. Just
Sure.
a Cliff Note version of your journey and any interesting pivots that you
Okay.
made along the way. That'd be great.
Sure. Well, I turned 50 this year,
Yes,
so
you did.
it's almost 30 years of doing agency work. So everything from advertising agencies to PR agencies. I've kind of worked in a number of them, but yeah, really over the years learned quite a bit. I mean, in the past 20 years, exclusively have been focused on healthcare and medical practices. So have a great understanding of their needs, their challenges, and yeah, but worked at a number of different agencies, and then we started our own agency about a dozen years ago. Had a great partner with Jennifer Jennings, and then um, right now partnering with Tom Testa and our creative director Sarah Smith and Matt Bolch, and just a great team. Work with some great people over the years and learned quite a bit. So yeah, I'm just really excited to continue this journey. Not only through our current agency, but also kind of expanding out into new areas.
Right, right. Well, you have been in the PR and communications industry, as you said, in healthcare for
Mm.
uh, 2+ decades, let's just say.
Right. It's scary.
It is scary, yeah, and you have seen a lot and a lot of changes, and certainly there have been a changes in healthcare that have, I'm sure, impacted what you and your team focus in on. I mean, obviously the passing of the High Tech Act and the adoption of EHR technology and the expansion of digital tools, and then
Hmm.
COVID hit, and then there was all the messaging and information and branding that went along with navigating the pandemic. And now we've come out of that today, and of course the big talk right now is generative AI and using that for creating content and
Mm.
communications. And so it has been, like everything, I guess, in life, uh, some pretty big changes over the last 20 years. I've been in healthcare for 15. I've certainly seen them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing, and you're right. There's a lot of challenges that organizations are dealing with, whether they're large hospitals or some of the vendors we've partnered with over the years, a lot of consolidation, the regulations that you talked about. Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of ride this wave and experience the growth where in the good times and some of the tightening up where in the tougher times, along with some of our partners over the years. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a good ride, but looking forward to better times ahead too.
yeah, yeah. So the launch of Own Reputation, and for those of you tuning in, the website we're going to be talking about here in about 5 seconds is ownreputation.com. So ownreputation.com. Uh, what is the website? What is the service? And how did you and your team identify the need for it in the marketplace?
Sure, sure. Yeah, this is uh, as an agency, we've worked with some really large organizations, both public and private. But one of the things that's kind of always been left out of the equation are the smaller businesses, especially the medical practices. And this is, could be anything from a physical therapist office to an orthodontist practice or family medicine, really anything that is a small business, maybe a handful of locations, but doesn't have the resources for a full-time full-time marketing staff. So whether it's an in-house staff or an outside agency, it doesn't make sense to spend the money on something that's really not doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a full-time job for these folks. So we thought that developing this kind of solution for a small business would make the most sense, and keeping it at a really low cost, something that they could uh, tap into when they need it, but in other cases it's just always available for them, would be great. And so we created this over the course of 5 or 6 years. We've been
Oh, wow. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's been in the
Oh,
works for a
wow.
long time.
I did not know that.
Yes.
See, I thought I knew you so well.
Oh yeah. No, this has been been behind the scenes for a long time. Yeah, so we've tapped into basically all our knowledge and tried to dump it out into the pages of this platform over the years to kind of build this up. During these years, just always having to update it and keep it relevant and current, and the right best practices that are happening now for medical practices. But it's really built out as blueprints, step-by-step blueprints that um, even non-marketers, or I should say, especially non-marketers, can tap into and really learn what they need to know.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea is I'm a physician or a one doc practice to small practice. I mean, I don't obviously I've been on the website and you don't necessarily define, this is for, physicians with less than 20 providers or anything like that. It really is
Mm,
sort of tapping into all of these resources. Um,
mm,
but the but the gist of it is, you know, you talk about taking ownership of the practice's reputation, which is a big part, obviously, of any practice's market if they're spending marketing dollars on that, but just in general, correct? I mean that's the heart of what it is they are trying to market beyond obviously their services and what they do, right? But it is this
mhm.
reputation, correct?
Right, right. In some cases, our customers are looking to add on a new location, or they are want to better engage with the patients that they have now, or maybe they want to increase and add on new patients. Other cases, they have new service offerings that they want to announce, or maybe they want to be the next, Dr. Oz and want to, be more of a celebrity out there in terms of sharing their thought leadership on certain topics. So, in all these different cases, um, there's dozens of different tactics you could take. You could, write press releases. You could start a podcast. You could optimize your site for search engines, all these different types of things. And Google and YouTube and AI right now allows you to look up really anything you need to know. But the challenge we found is you don't know what you don't know. So how do you know? You could look up how to write a press release or how to design a website, but if you don't know the reasons why you're doing it, or the kind of the behind the scenes on the most cost effective ways to do it, it's tough to look up those answers that you're looking for. And that's what we tried to lay this out. So we've set it up so there's different ways of navigating through the whole platform to enable you to quickly find exactly what you're looking for. Or if you just want to learn a little bit more about a certain topic, or a little bit of more about a promotional area, you can kind of peruse the site that way as well. So there's different ways of going about it.
And just so far, like where does the typical visitor start with? Have you identified the areas of content of most interest at this point, or is it
Sure.
just I'm kind of jumping around because this looks intriguing and it's a very, I mean, the cost obviously is very appealing.
Mhm.
Um, it's listed right on the website. Uh, so what are you experiencing right now?
Yeah, I thought the reputation management sections would be the kind of the hottest topics right now. But there are some really good, strong platforms right now that are available for reputation management for medical practices. So there's ways that you can. There's different services actually that we promote, throughout the site as well, that people can tap into. But it's really a lot of the email marketing, list management, some of the email marketing campaigns that people are the most interested right now. I think public relations is kind of something that is often forgotten about for medical practices, but I think there's some ways that they can tap into um, PR a little bit more. Um, Website management is a big one. I mean, I think anything that kind of drives search engine success for your website is going to be important, and that's something that non-marketers are a bit shy to tap into because they think it's so challenging to create, design, and manage your site. But that's why we've kind of laid the site out like this, that people can tap into the platform, really learn the types of platforms that can help them and develop a little bit better. We even have links into some of the external resources if they needed some additional consulting that they could use for it. So, yeah, I think anything related to interactive, their website, pay per click, those kind of things are going to be really hot right now for some of our customers.
Yeah, yeah. And some of what you were talking about early, as far as other resources, I think what you were perhaps alluding to, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, I'm a physician, I get a bad Yelp review. What do I do, right? Like there are
Mhm.
tools out there to help you with that sort of reputation, correct? And then, but then there are other things you have to think about too. Like I've been to, some physician websites, these, standalone websites, I mean, are definitely like, 1980s vibe. They haven't, right? Perhaps uh, done much. A, they're swamped and minimal resources. But there are websites out there that have, especially this day and age, pretty robust built-in SEO capabilities. Correct?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, a lot of these tools that are available out there, offer different levels of how you can access, different benefits. And so in some cases, it's not necessarily listing out everything that's out there, but also almost ranking them in terms of quality and cost. If you're a small, you know, three doc practice, you don't necessarily need to go for the top of the line, most expensive tool out there. So what we try to do is kind of rate things and rank things based on what makes sense for some of the smaller businesses. So we've kind of set it up that way. So it's not only offering everything that's out there, but also tapping into what makes the most sense for your needs.
Right.
Yep.
And and do you also get into maybe you do, maybe you don't. Is HIPAA an issue in any of this, especially if you're doing any email campaigns and email marketing, or just your website in general, or is that really behind the curtain with the communication directly with the patient?
No, that's a great point because and a lot of these things, where relevant, we'll provide some guidance around best practices to comply with HIPAA. We stress that in some of our areas in terms of especially the list management areas, email marketing, um, even some of the patient testimonials section. We'll talk about that, things that you need to remember to avoid. Um, we have a referral section that talks about different incentives, and discounts and coupons and that sort of things, and what can and can't be allowed for medical practices. So we'll provide some additional recommendations around that based on our years of working in this space. So yep, exactly.
And do you find that there's a difference in need between, let's just say, that general practitioner and like a specialist, a cardiologist, a neurosurgeon, an orthopedic, are
Yeah.
those specialty practices, are their needs a little different, or is it really, it's really the same? It's just depending on the level of interest and what the practice wants to gain from the site.
Yeah, it's more of the size, I would say. So
Oh, okay.
size and
Yeah.
resources. So a physical therapist and a medical spa, or a psychiatrist and a dentist, they often have similar needs in terms of promoting and reaching out to their patients, or in some cases that they'd be called clients. So yeah, depending on what the specialty is, there are a lot of different ways of going about that. And so we've set this up as, kind of a one-time fee where people can sign up and have, for less than $1,000, you have complete access to the site really forever. But you also, there's an optional service, if you'd like, where we can customize our lists, your media outreach lists, your regional lists. We can provide some customized options for your specific specialty. We can offer consultations on a quarterly basis for you. So there's other options for you if you felt that you needed additional handholding, additional care for your promotional things, or if you have some specific questions about how you might go about reworking a press release or an article to kind of fit your needs, there's that option as a service as well.
Yeah, you mentioned press releases, and obviously, that's kind of a big topic in the industry right now because you can use an AI tool to write a press release for you if you would like, although perhaps devoid of some personality. So I'm just like a small practice. Like, what kind of things would they write a press release about? You mentioned perhaps adding a new provider on staff, a new service.
Hmm.
Are there other things? I mean, those are the two obvious ones that come to mind.
New service, new location,
Oh, right.
speaking opportunities, engaging in community events. There could be participation on boards. Yeah, there's some different options for that. We also give caveats on things like, press releases, which were super hot 20 years ago, but may have trailed off in their importance these days. And so we
Yeah,
kind of talk
yeah.
about that within the program as well, and kind of and steer folks in certain ways to either media pitching or other ways of getting your word out there, um, beyond just say the press release. And that's
Yeah.
just one example, but you're right. I mean, I think there's options for them to put press release out there, but there may be better ways of doing it, and that's one of the reasons why. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to have that type of consultation behind you, and not just going right to, hey, I heard I should write a press release, let me just
Right. Right.
talk to AI and have them write it for me.
Right.
Right.
Let me put a couple scripts in and see what I get. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that's really interesting because obviously content marketing, email marketing, website marketing, uh, all of those require a learning curve, I think, to be done right and at least have the right resources behind
Mm.
you. But also that idea of earned media, I mean,
Hmm.
how you're a doctor and you are interested in perhaps in your local community having a bigger presence, right? So you talk about that, right? Yeah, how do you pitch your local or maybe regional or maybe it is national media, depending on, I guess, the story that you're pitching, right?
Right. And in some cases, it makes sense to kind of tap into some of the resources of your vendor partners. A lot of times,
Oh, yeah,
we look at it when we're working with vendors to kind of promote and tap into the medical practices themselves. But for medical practices, you can do the reverse. Let's lean on some of the marketing strengths and the public relations strengths of your vendor partners, and work with them to develop some of these articles for you. So, yeah, there's some recommendations in there that kind of talk about ways that you can do that and become a bigger voice. And maybe you can get out there on the speaker circuit and share some of your experiences out there, either in written form or on a stage. So, yeah, I think there's some great ways of doing that.
yeah. And it strikes me too that, and maybe this is part of the plan, or maybe it's not, but it seems like this is very scalable, either in terms of the size of a practice or other verticals.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, for the most part, we were looking at kind of the smaller practices, but we do have an enterprise version as well that's available. And even some of the the marketing departments at, say, a hospital or health system would certainly find value in it. It's just something that we've specifically designed it to be such a low cost, that could be used by some of the smaller ones, but certainly larger organizations could still certainly find value to it and use it as a resource.
Right, right. I mean, I obviously have not gotten a peek behind the curtain, but just seeing the things that you put on the website as far as what's available, it does. It's not a one size fits all kind of experience where you really do get to cherry pick the things that interest you.
Mm. And we'll have to I'll share some access with you too. I'd love to hear what you have to think
Oh
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would love that because I was like, ooh, I would like to take a look at
Exactly.
that. See what that looks like. Well, we've got a few minutes left. It's always a fast 30 minutes here, Dave. Um, so what's next? You've got own reputation. You may be look, sounding like you're going to be scaling it up, perhaps address other verticals. What else is new, or what's going to be coming down the pike for you and the Anderson Interactive team?
Sure, sure. Well, we're just scratching the surface right now in terms of initial promotion of own reputation. Love to get the word out a little bit more. But you're right. I mean, I think beyond some of this different specialties and the verticals that we could look into and promote into, um, something like this really does have legs for even any other type of small business, whether it's a restaurant or auto parts shop or whatever. They all have similar needs in terms of marketing and promotion. We would need to, really revamp the platform a bit, the language within it, because we did specialize it so much for medical, but it could certainly be leveraged for some of those other areas, and sharing, what makes maybe more sense for a restaurant that wouldn't make sense for a medical practice, say. So I think
Right,
there are certainly ways you could transition that into other areas.
right, right. I'm so excited for you, my friend. I think this is wonderful.
Thanks so much. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate the discussion, and yeah,
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
hear a little bit more about what you think once you get to see it.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Well, thank you for talking with today. I know you would talk with me any day, but nice that you
Of
would
course.
talk to me for the show. You can learn more about Dave and his agency at andersoni.com, and be sure to check out his new initiative. Actually, not so new, but new out in the marketplace, ownedreputation.com. And you can learn more about this show on the program page on healthcarenowradio.com. And be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, I want to know, what's your tagline?